or Joshua 24. Let's call this one 110 and maybe subtitle it All of the Days, because as Joshua in this final chapter of the book of Joshua is going to give us a brief history of how Israel got to this point, he is going to use that history to set up some final words of encouragement and caution as they each go to their inheritance. And he lives out his final days at 110 years of age, thus the title. But to get there, he's going to talk about a few of the high points in much the same way that Moses began the book of Deuteronomy with a history that led into a point. Joshua is going to lead in with a few of the high points of their history in making a very famous point in this chapter 24. He's basically going to say, you have seen the ways in which God led you out of Egypt, helping you to overcome the years of bondage. And after that, he helped you to overcome a number of adversaries, not the least of which were the two kings of the Amorites. But it didn't stop there, because after succeeding in overcoming the adversaries among the Amorites, he brought you into one of his people who should have actually been blessing you, but instead tried to curse you, a man by the name of Balaam. But he helped you to overcome even that curse, but it didn't stop there, because once you got past all of those adversaries, you crossed the Jordan to face even more, and God helped you to overcome each and every obstacle in your way. And understanding that, he is going to lead into the therefore with the very famous statement, as for you, I can't really say what you're going to do, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And that's the most possibly famous part of this chapter. But understand, in getting there, one of the things that Joshua seems to realize is something that all of us will have to realize in any position of leadership we find ourselves in, is there is only so far we can preach and teach the people into the right way to go. At a certain point, it's simply their choice, and that is a pattern that we've seen over and over throughout the Pentateuch, or the law. Basically, each book of the law, whether it's Leviticus or Numbers or Deuteronomy, all had a point in which God told Moses to make sure that the people understood, look, it's up to you and it's your choice. And likewise, Joshua is doing the same thing. And so understanding that, he is not simply washing his hands of the matter. He is resolving to do the best that he can going forward. Not so much to turn the people off with too many words, but hopefully to set the kind of example that will allow any who are willing to follow to see the way in which they should go. Because in that statement, as for me and my house, he doesn't conclude it by saying, we are going to lead sinless lives moving forward. No, he says we're going to serve the Lord, presumably to the degree that they stumble. He's going to not only set them a pattern for doing the things that God has called them to do, but recovering from the times in which they stumble. And that's another lesson in leadership. During this time of going through the Bible, it takes a while, and it gives me an opportunity to stumble a lot, sometimes to stumble publicly. And public stumbles can be super embarrassing. But part of the example we set as people, if we're setting a healthy example, is how we recover. Why? Because the alternative is to live behind a veil of what simply is not true. And that is leading a life in which we make no mistakes. And so part of the healthy example that we seem to see here in Joshua is learning the point at which he has to both let go and then set an example, not necessarily premised on perfection, but on effectively pursuing God, both in the good times and through adversity. And understand, one of the things that can make it extremely difficult to let go is when you still see problems that need to be addressed. And that is exactly what it seems that Joshua sees here. Why? Because when the people say, oh, we will serve the Lord, he'll say, no, there's some things that are still going on. And twice he's going to mention the fact that they still seem to have foreign gods lingering among them. And he's going to say, if you're going to serve God, you're going to have to put away the foreign gods or the false gods to serve God in truth. Joshua is saying there is no residual of spin that you can mix with God that will help you actually succeed in moving forward. And one of the reasons why that's so important is because even though this generation is going to end up serving God all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived him, their success should have carried on for generations. But trouble is going to start in the very next generation, when the very idols that Joshua was concerned about are going to be a problem for their children by the time we get roughly 3 or 4 chapters into the next book, the book of Judges.